Hello, students. Welcome to the 8th online lecture for the subject of sociology. We will continue with the second chapter of our textbook, that is Basic Concepts in Sociology. Dear students, after having understood the concepts of society, community, social group, and primary group, we shall move on to study about secondary groups, social status and types, and social role. Let me in the first place convey to you that secondary groups are just the opposite of primary groups. The groups other than primary groups can be termed as secondary groups. The understanding of secondary groups is necessary in a modern industrial society. They are often called special interest groups. Secondary groups have thus become inevitable today. They have appeared in a growing complex society. When population expands, interest becomes diversified and services of experts is required. The average member has neither the time nor the energy nor the skill to attain to them. The new range of interest demands a complex organization. The members are too many, too scattered to conduct business through face to face relationships. These features characterize the rise of modern state. The factory, the army, the labor union, a political party, and so on. These are secondary groups. Let's see the definition of secondary group. According to Frank Watson, the secondary group is larger and more formal, is specialized and direct in its contacts. Dressler and Willis say that a group in which the relationship among the members is relatively impersonal is called as secondary group. Let us now move on to study the characteristic of secondary groups. Number 1, large in size. Number 2, indirect relations. Number 3, impersonal relations. Number 4, deliberate establishment. Number 5, formal relations. Number 6, limited influence on personality. Number 7, nature of group control. Let's go in detail. Number 1, large in size. The secondary groups are large in size, larger than the primary groups. Primary groups may be as small as a group of 2, whereas the membership is large in a secondary group. It can have thousands of members. Examples of such groups are universities, political parties, trade unions, youth organizations, religious organizations, etc. Number 2, indirect relations. The relationship among the members are normally indirect. This is because members are spread out and based on letters, emails, WhatsApp, etc. The members may not stay together. Relationships are characterized by indirect, impersonal, contractual, and non inclusive relations. Relations are of this kind because secondary groups are bigger in size. Members are bound to one another by mutual rights, duties, and obligations for the realization of their interests. Relations are impersonal and characterized by formal rules and regulations, curriculum, dress code, etc. These kind of relations among people can be found in governmental offices, banks, big factories, etc. Number 3, impersonal relations. Persons in secondary groups may not be known to each other personally. Due to the large size, there is limited personal interaction. In a secondary group, work has to go on. Efficiency is of great importance. One's value lies in one's worth. Individuals are considered as the means to the end. It does not matter who is doing a particular job as long as the work gets done. There is a clear hierarchy of ranks. There is a certain degree of discipline, formal orders based on specializations, and there is also accountability to superiors. Due to all this, the nature of relationship in a secondary group is less intimate and more formal, more impersonal than personal as far as work goes. Example, in a school, principal, supervisor, staff members, administrative staff, etc. Number 4, deliberate establishment. Secondary groups are formed for the realization of some specific interest or ends. They are called as special interest groups. Secondary groups are intentionally formed. Members are interested in the group because they have specific ends to aim at. The members are admitted to the group depending on their organizational goals and needs. Thus, they are established with a particular purpose of fulfilling the objective of its members successfully. Number 5, formal relations. The relationships that are found within secondary groups are indirect, formal, and impersonal. Example, the relationship between teacher and student is formal and impersonal. Secondary groups have a formal structure. There is a formal authority with designated powers and clear-cut division of labor. Secondary groups are thus organized groups. Statuses and roles which the members assume are specified. There is greater tolerance towards other people and group. Number 6, limited influence on personality. The members' attachment to the group is limited as far as the secondary groups are concerned. People spend most of their time in primary groups than in secondary groups. Secondary groups are specialized in character. Hence, they have very limited influence on the personality of the members. People's involvement in the secondary group is also very much limited. Number 7, nature of group control. The secondary group cannot be controlled effectively by informal forms of social control. Formal means of social control like law, police, court is used to control the behavior of members. The behavior of people is influenced by law, public opinion, propaganda, and political ideologies. Functions of secondary groups. Number 1, goal achievement. The main function of the secondary group is to fulfill a specific purpose. Sometimes the goals are attained at the cost of suppressing one's true feelings. Example, a secretary has to be polite and cheerful even if the boss is in the worst of tempers. Number 2, efficiency. In a large organization, specialization and division of labor are important. Each one performs a limited task. One has to put in his or her best efforts because if one does not perform up to expectations, he or she could be replaced. Efficiency is achieved at the cost of human relations. Number 3, replacement of primary group functions. In a modern complex society, the primary group is unable to carry out functions that it did in a traditional setup. It therefore becomes dependent on the secondary group for support. Example, the family can no longer effectively perform the functions of education, socialization, protection, etc. for its children. It is thus dependent on secondary groups like schools, universities, police force, government, etc. Students, after having studied the concepts of primary group, secondary group, and considering the importance of this group, it is very important for us to differentiate between the primary group and the secondary groups. So let us analyze the differences between them. Number 1, groups which are characterized by face to face relations, mutual help, and companionship are primary groups, whereas groups which provide experience and are lacking in intimacy are secondary groups. Number 2, social relations in a primary group are face to face, direct, intimate, and personal. Whereas in a secondary group, social relations are indirect, impersonal, non intimate in nature. Number 3, primary groups are smaller in size, they are localized or limited to a definite area. On the contrary, secondary groups are relatively bigger in size, they are not necessarily restricted to a small area. Number 4, since members stay together, communication is not only direct but also quick and effective. Since members are spread over a vast area, direct communication is difficult in secondary group. It is mostly indirect in nature. Number 5, group structure is very informal. No formal or detailed rules are drafted as guidelines in primary group. Whereas in secondary group, group structure is formal in secondary group. The group is regulated by a set of formal rules. Number 6, primary group are relatively durable. Secondary group may be temporary or permanent. Number 7, informal means of social control are enough to regulate the relations in primary groups. Informal means of social control are not enough in a secondary group, and formal means of social control are resorted to for maintaining the group control. Number 8, example of primary group are family, neighborhood, peer group, etc. Examples of secondary group are political parties, trade unions, religious associations, etc. Let us now understand the concepts of social status and social role. These concepts are related to each other and are extremely interesting to be studied. Let us first consider the concept of social status. Society is understood in terms of network of social interactions and interconnections. Everyone does not respond to the stimulus in the same manner. This is because everyone has a separate identity. Example, patients expect treatment for diseases from doctors. Students get their doubts clarified from their teachers. Everyone enters a social situation with an identity. This identity refers to his position or status. Every status is a part of social identity and determines the kind of relationships that will be shared with others. Some individuals occupy higher positions and others occupy lower positions. Definition of social status. According to Ralph Linton, A status is the place in a particular system which a certain individual occupies at a particular time. According to Eliot and Merrill, status is the rank, order, position which the individual occupies in a group by virtue of his sex, age, family, class, occupation, marriage, and achievement. Nature of social status. Number 1. Every status has its own right, duties, and obligation. Example, it is the right of an employer to expect a particular behavior from his employee, and it is the obligation of the employee to behave in the desired manner. Similarly, it is the right of an employee to expect some reward for his labor from his employer. It is also the duty of the employer to give the reward to the employee. Number 2. One individual occupies many statuses. His status will differ with the type of group. In a single day, also, one may find himself in a large number of statuses. Example, a college student may be a student for his teachers, a passenger to the bus driver, a brother to his sister, a patient to his doctor, and so on. Number 3. Some statuses are more important than other in deciding the position of an individual in society. Different societies have different criteria for deciding the importance of statuses. Example, in India, caste and occupational status are more important. Russian attach more importance to political status, and so on. Number 4. All statuses are not equally distributed amongst all. Few persons occupy highest position while majority assume ordinary statuses. Let us now see the types of status. There are two ways in which an individual gets his status in a society. A. Through ascription, or B. Through achievement. Ralph Linton thus uses the concepts ascribed status and achieved status to refer to this distinction of status. In some societies, we find more of ascribed statuses than achieved statuses, and vice versa. But all societies make use of both the principles of ascription and achievement in providing statuses to their members. Number 1. Ascribed status. Ascribed status is assigned to a person by society, generally at birth. The determinants like age, sex, race, etc. are biological in origin. Ascribed status is that over which the individual has absolutely no choice. It is derived from membership in involuntary groups. This position is given to an individual irrespective of his or her qualities or his or her efforts. This status is very often fixed and difficult to change. Example, in the Varna system, the lower status of Shudras were ascribed. Number 2. Achieved status. Achieved status is attained by a person largely through his or her own efforts, and a person has some choice in it. All societies have some achieved statuses, and no society depends completely on ascribed statuses. It is a social position a person assumes voluntarily that reflects personal ability and efforts. Achieved status is thus acquired through individual choice and competition. We see that in primitive societies, greater stress is laid on ascribed statuses. On the contrary, civilized societies give more importance to achieved statuses. Example of achieved status includes becoming a doctor, a teacher, pilot, etc. Students, we now come to the conclusion of the chapter by considering the last concept, that is the concept of social role. Society is a network of statuses. Each status has a set of expected behaviors called roles. Every individual members of social group or society is bound to play social roles. Thus, role playing is obligatory for all members. The number of roles that one plays depend on the statuses that he assumes. People thus hold a status and perform a role. Example, when one holds the status of a student, one has to attend classes, complete assignments, and devote time in attaining academic excellence. This is his role attached to his status as a student. Definition of social role. According to Elie Chenoy, role is the pattern of behavior expected or required of persons who occupy a particular status. According to Young and Mack, a role is the functions of a status. Role performance. Role performance refers to the way a person actually plays one's role in a situation. Role set. Role set is a term which indicates that a status may not have just one single role but a number of associated roles which fit in together. Example, a wife is also a mother, a daughter-in-law, a neighbor, a citizen, etc. Thus, her role is a set of roles. A person may not be able to operate equally well in all items of the role set. Example, the wife who is wonderful mother may be a bad neighbor. Successful role performance requires a person to be competent in a number of role behaviors. Role strain. Role strain is the difficulty that people have in meeting their role obligations. When a person has too many roles to perform, role strain occurs. It may also occur if the person is not adequately prepared for the performance of the role. Example, if a teacher is not prepared for a lecture, it could result in role strain. Role conflict. Role conflict refers to a clash between roles. It could occur between two roles or also within a single role. Example, a working woman may find the demands of her job conflicting with home duties, or a police officer has to choose between performing his duty of arresting a good friend. Role exit. Role exit is a process of disengagement from a role which is central to one's self identity in order to establish a new role and identity. With this, we conclude the third chapter of our textbook. See you all in the next lecture. Thank you.